thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join NeedyMeds' special topic webinar, Non-Alcoholic Fatty Liver Disease, an Epidemic Sweeping the Nation, hosted by the American Liver Foundation. My name is Carla. I am the Director of Education and Partnerships at NeedyMeds. And before we get started, I just want to go over a few points. Throughout the webinar, you can feel free to type any questions you may have into the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. Just know that we will reserve answering questions until the end. If we don't have the time to answer your specific question, we will follow up with you personally via email after the webinar by tomorrow. Of course, we'll provide the contact information from both the American Liver Foundation and NeedyMeds should you have questions that need to be answered sooner. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing on the NeedyMeds YouTube page. I also wanted to let you know that the PowerPoint presentations accompanying the webinar can be found in the handout section of your GoToWebinar control panel. If you have difficulty accessing them, shoot me a message in that questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel, and I will be happy to email these presentations to you after the webinar. So with that, let's get started. For those of you that are not familiar with NeedyMeds, what you're looking at is a slide of our mission statement, which was actually updated at the end of 2016. NeedyMeds, simply put, is a nonprofit that connects people free and anonymously through our website and toll-free helpline to programs that will help them afford their healthcare expenses. And I always put a slide of our homepage up in my presentations because really our website is the face of our organization. And two quick things I want to point out. Actually, three quick things. If you are looking for cost savings resources, you will find them under that patient savings tab where my mouse is circling in the navigation bar. If you want to join us for future webinars, you can check the bottom right-hand corner, calendar of events. And you can find a hyperlink to our YouTube channel that I mentioned just a moment ago in the top right-hand corner where all of the social media icons are. Anyway, as I had said, we do connect people to programs that will help them afford or save on their healthcare expenses. But a big part of our mission is also education. And we define education really in two ways. One, by letting people know about NeedyMeds and the resources we have to offer, but also by letting our users know about other ways to stay healthy, which is why we are so pleased to have our guest from the American Liver Foundation here with us to share her expertise about the nation's new epidemic, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So first, let me tell you a bit about our partner, the American Liver Foundation. Their mission is to facilitate, advocate, and promote education, support, and research for the prevention, treatment, and cure of liver disease. And our guest will get into this in just a little bit more detail. And now let me tell you a little bit about our guest. You're looking at her picture on the screen right now. Kara Kunz is the Community Outreach and Education Manager for the Desert Southwest Division of the American Liver Foundation. In her role at ALF, Kara organizes and delivers educational programs to communities throughout Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. You'll see for yourself how passionate she is about this topic. And she's also very passionate about food, nutrition, and teaching others about health and wellness. Kara's favorite part of her job is watching people take the information they learn and applying it to their everyday life. So without further ado, and hopefully seamlessly, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic and the screen to our host, Kara, so she can take it away for today's presentations. And as she does that, I'm going to remind everyone that you can certainly feel free again to ask any questions you may have throughout Kara's presentation in that question section of your GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll do our best to get to those at the end. Thanks, Kara, and thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Carla, and thank you to the folks at NeedyMeds. We're always happy to partner with you guys. You're a great organization, and we appreciate your support. And thank you to all of our attendees for today. I appreciate you allowing me to come into your lives for an hour and teach you about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Real quick, just wanted to let you know we will review the liver, its functions, a quick overview of liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease risks and prevention strategies, and also management and treatment options. But I have to throw in my little disclaimer really quick. The American Liver Foundation is not a medical organization, therefore we cannot provide individual medical advice or recommendations. It's our goal after today's program that you will feel more educated about this topic and will be able to openly discuss any prevention or management issues with NAFLD with your healthcare provider. So as Carla said, our mission is to promote education, advocacy, support services, and research for the prevention, treatment, and cure of liver disease. I'm so lucky to be in my role because I actually get firsthand experience with all of those items. And my favorite part is educating the public. If you're not familiar with American Liver Foundation, we're a nonprofit organization, and we have divisions all throughout the U.S. that gives coverage to every state. Let's just jump right into it. So before I can go into non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, I have to first explain about the liver so that way you understand its functions and why it's so important. Your liver performs more than 500 functions, and 200 of those it performs at the same time. I don't know about you, but I cannot multitask to the level of our liver. Your liver is the second largest organ of your body, the largest internal, your first largest organ being your skin. The liver weighs roughly about 3 pounds, so it's a pretty heavy organ. It does a lot of jobs. It takes everything that you eat, drink, breathe, and even apply to your skin topically, and it processes that almost like a filter. So it helps detoxify any harmful substances and get things to where they need to go. Your liver actually produces proteins. One of those is clotting factor that helps stop cuts from bleeding. Your liver also makes bile, which is really important for fat digestion in foods. Bile is this sticky green-like substance that the liver produces, but it's actually stored in your gallbladder, and then it gets released into your small intestine as we're eating. It's also very important in our immune function. The liver can store energy. It can take glucose, so blood sugar, and convert it into the storable form. And it also stores vitamins and minerals, so we can use those for later. The liver is a pretty awesome organ. It actually can regenerate. It's the only organ that can do this, kind of like a starfish. So you could actually cut a portion of your liver and donate that to a person who needed a liver transplant. Obviously, I would not suggest doing that on your own. That's definitely for the transplant centers to conduct, but it's just something amazing that our organ can do. So you will see these terms come up a lot, and I just wanted to go over them real quick because it'll be abbreviated. So NAFLD is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. The progressed stage of NAFLD would be NASH, non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. Now these are like big words, but if you see these, I'm just going to explain what they mean for you. So regardless of however a person develops liver disease, which could be many different ways because there are more than 100 different types of liver disease, liver disease is a progressive disease. So if something goes undetected for a long time, it can cause problems later on because it keeps progressing through those different stages. So you could have a healthy liver, maybe has a little bit of fatty tissue, but then it goes into NASH, which means you have the inflammation. It's pretty much what hepatitis is, swelling, inflammation of the liver. And then it can progress to fibrosis, which is when it starts to get a little bit thicker and starts developing scar tissue, and then it can ultimately lead to cirrhosis, which is severe scarring of the liver. In some cases, people can also develop hepatocellular carcinoma, or HCC, but it's just a type of liver cancer. So if you see those words, that's what those mean, and we'll go over more of those later. But just keep in mind, liver disease is a progressive disease. So what is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? You've probably heard of it. And if you haven't, you'll hear a lot more in the next handful of years because it really is an epidemic sweeping our nation. So just like the name suggests, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It's the buildup of fat in the liver, but not from drinking alcohol. It could be from our diets, it could be from medication. But once you have 5 to 10% of the weight of the liver containing fat, that's when they would categorize you as having fatty liver disease. One of the problems with fatty liver disease is that a lot of times people have no symptoms. So the disease can progress and get worse, and they might not even know it until it reaches later stages. NAFLD affects people who drink little to no alcohol, but it can also occur in patients with a high BMI, body mass index. It can affect people who are not overweight. The good news is that NAFLD is preventable, and it can also be reversed, especially if it's detected early. Here's some images for you just to give you an idea of what your liver looks like. So on the top, we have a picture of a healthy liver. Your liver processes a lot of fluids all day long, so it has a lot of blood flow going through it. You can see how it changes as someone develops fatty liver disease. You have pictures of fat pockets in the liver. It looks a little bit inflamed. It's not the same color anymore, just to give you an example. The next image is we've got the healthy liver on the left, and you've got the little green gallbladder underneath it. And then on the right, you can see a picture of a cirrhotic liver. Now, we don't go over this later in the slides, so I just want to tell you now. So cirrhosis is usually a point where people start to notice signs or symptoms of liver disease. And cirrhosis usually happens 10 to 30 years out after your liver has become injured or diseased. And it could happen for any reason. It doesn't matter if you have autoimmune hepatitis, if you have hepatitis A, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, if you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or if you have some other kind of genetic liver disease. Anyone who has liver disease can develop cirrhosis. Once the liver has started to form scar tissue, at that point, I don't think there's much you can do for it. You can't reverse scarring. Just like if you've ever had a scar on your skin, you're pretty much stuck with that. But you can see that it's bumpy. It looks like it's hard. Not that you would want to hold this in your hand, but if you were to squish it, you'd feel it feels a little bit stiffer, almost like a rock. Once a liver has reached a cirrhosis point, a person would experience symptoms such as ascites, which would be fluid accumulation in the abdomen. When I go into the schools and they teach kids about this, I'm always telling them, well, picture Homer Simpson. You know how he has that ski slope of a stomach? So if you see someone who's kind of thin, but they have a lot of mass in their stomach, that could potentially be ascites, just to give you a mental image. They could also be jaundice, which is when they have yellowing of the skin or eyes. They could have edema, so swelling in the legs particularly. A person who has cirrhosis who would have swelling of the legs, they usually look like tree trunks. It's pretty obvious. They don't really have the same shape as a normal leg. And then another important one that I want to touch on, because I'll come back to this later, is hepatic encephalopathy. It's like, why do they have to come up with these big words, right? But just think of it abbreviated as HE. So that's pretty much the ammonia buildup in your blood. Now you'd think, well, how would we possibly get ammonia in ourselves? Because it's a toxic substance that no one would ever consume. It's poisonous. Naturally, when you eat, your food interacts with the gut flora inside your intestines, and it can produce a byproduct of ammonia. We would never know this because our healthy livers break this down and distribute everything where it's supposed to go, and so not poisonous to us because it's already done its job. We got rid of it. When your liver is scarred, like this cirrhotic picture right here, it can't do its job. So then you start to get the fluid buildup, and then ammonia is running rampant in your bloodstream, which can go to your brain. People who experience hepatic encephalopathy appear to be as if they have Alzheimer's, or maybe delusional, or just disoriented, they may be confused. It often goes misdiagnosed because we're still trying to spread the word and get medical professionals aware, this is one of the side effects of later stage of liver disease. So just wanted to go over a couple of those things with you so you're aware of what cirrhosis looks like. So non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is right now the most common cause of abnormal liver function tests in the U.S. And when we say that, we're talking about if you were to run a blood panel. So every year when you go in and you get your annual physical, it's good to get blood work done just to see where you're at. I'm lucky because my doctor automatically runs a liver panel to see if there's any digestive enzymes in there. If they were elevated, it would tell the doctor, okay, let's take a closer look at the liver, something's going on here. Right now, there's an estimated 100 million Americans with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and 25 million of those have advanced to NASH. So I was thinking about this. I'm like, okay, well, how many people are there total in the U.S.? The 2017 Census Bureau reported that there are 325.7 million. So 100 million out of 325, that's like 30%. So 30% of Americans right now have NAFLD. And 25 million Americans have NASH, just to put it in numbers. And this is not just talking about adults. This is kids too. This is why it's so important to know about this and be aware, because maybe you might not have it, but your family member could, or you could even have kids that have fatty liver disease. And if it's not detected early, it can advance, and nobody wants to end up with cirrhosis. It just, you don't want to be sick. You don't want any of your organs being unhealthy. Many people with type 2 diabetes and nearly all obese people have NAFLD or NASH. And like I just said, they're greatly increasing in children due to obesity. We work really closely with the Phoenix Children's Hospital because I work with the Desert Southwest Division, and I was just talking to their medical director a couple months ago. She had diagnosed 3 16-year-olds within a week that had cirrhosis. Cirrhosis at 16, like that should never be something a teenager has to deal with. That's just, I mean, your liver's already developing scar tissue. So this is really why we want to get out there and promote education and awareness so we can make sure that we don't have any more teens having this problem. And it actually is National Childhood Obesity Awareness Month, so it's relevant. Okay, so some risks for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Obesity, we already touched on. Type 2 diabetes. If you have high cholesterol or high triglycerides. And if you think about those 4 things right there, that is all metabolic syndrome. It's all closely related to your metabolism and everything. So it's just something to pay attention. If you feel like you might fall in that category, just something to be on your mind. The next time you go in for a checkup, you can talk with your provider about it. And also, as I mentioned before, certain drugs can lead to fatty liver disease. To touch on obesity real quick. So the difference between being overweight or obese. When you're obese, you're more than 20% over your ideal body weight. So you would have a body mass index of 30 or more. And we'll go over that later again too. These images, these maps make me sad, but it also dates myself because I can remember back in the 90s, I was a teenager. Back in the 1990s, we didn't have the current obesity epidemic like we do right now. We had less than 18% in each state were obese. And if you look at even 2014, so 4 years ago, there's one state that still has its residents are like in the 20% range, whereas everyone else is above, just to kind of show you where we've come as a nation throughout the years. We're really facing, this is a problem today because this obesity doesn't just affect your liver, it affects your heart, it can affect your kidneys, it can affect all kinds of things. So earlier we said body mass index, and just in case you were wondering what that is, it's a tool that physicians and dietitians and medical professionals use to help assess whether a person is obese or not. It does not reflect on the body composition. So you could, in fact, be a bodybuilder and be considered obese by your BMI, but it doesn't mean that you're necessarily obese. It's a number assigned, and they have a calculation to figure that out. But lean people can still have fatty liver disease. You don't have to be overweight or obese. It's just more commonly found in those who are. In this portion here about visceral fat, maybe better assessed with waist circumference. So if you've ever thought of someone who looks like an apple-shaped compared to a pear-shaped, it's actually a better shaped body to have if you are pear-shaped, because you do not want to hold all of your extra weight around your organs. So your abdominal area, I mean, there's so many organs in there. Think about it. You have your kidneys, your pancreas, your liver, your gallbladder, your stomach, everything's in that area. So the more weight you're packing on, the more pressure you're putting on those organs, the harder it is to get blood flow and oxygen and nutrients to those organs. So just another thing to think about. If you guys want to take a screenshot, or I guess there's the PDF you can keep, but this is a good just chart telling you the different sections. So if you are under 18.5 for BMI, you're probably underweight. If you're in the 18.5 to 20, just under 25, you're in the normal healthy. And then, as we talked about before, 30 or above, it's obese. So like I talked about before, there are no symptoms of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, just like most other liver diseases. Sometimes some patients can experience the following: abdominal pain, fatigue and weakness, itching, loss of appetite, or nausea. But if you think about those individually, I'm sure every one of us has experienced one of them. And it wouldn't be a cause to run to your healthcare provider, freaking out because you had one of these. But if you had all of these together, and you also know that maybe you have a lot of visceral fat, maybe your triglycerides are high and you have diabetes type 2, or maybe you're obese, I would definitely suggest speaking with your primary care physician or whoever you see on a regular basis, and just talk to them openly about this. One interesting fact about the liver, the liver doesn't have any nerve endings. So if you felt pain in that area, it wouldn't be from your liver. It would be from your gallbladder or something else around close by. That's another reason why many people don't experience a lot of signs or symptoms of an injured or diseased liver, because you can't tell. It's like the silent organ in the background that just keeps on trucking. So if you did have any pain in that area, definitely get yourself to a provider, because this could be something serious. So now that I've scared you, you're probably thinking, well, how do I know if I have this? Good question. I thought the same thing when I learned about all this. It freaked me out. I thought, oh my God, what if I was terrible in my 20s, and what if I have fatty liver right now? Well, the good thing is that fatty liver disease is not a death sentence. Like we said before, up to certain stages can still be reversed. It can be prevented, but it's often a diagnosis of exclusion. So obviously, if you have a history of obesity or any of the other risk factors that we talked about, that could be one thing doctors are looking at. Blood work. So if you have elevated liver enzymes that come back, then it would cause more investigative research to be done. Okay, let's see what's going on. Let's order some imaging tests. However, not all NAFLD patients have elevated enzymes, so just kind of be cognizant, because it still might require more conversation with your doctor. But usually once the doctor sees different enzymes appearing in your blood work that are elevated, they order ultrasound or an MRI, or even sometimes a fiber scan, which is a type of elastography that measures the stiffness of your liver. So they can tell, like, if you did have fatty liver, what stage you were at, if it had progressed. They're coming a long way with all the technology advances, which is awesome. Right now, September 2018, there is currently no FDA-approved medication for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. However, there are a handful of pharmaceutical companies working on getting their medications approved, and they're going through all the clinical research. So I think they'll have something by 2019. Not sure who's going to come up with the first one, but as of right now, though, the only treatment for fatty liver would be to modify your lifestyle. So making sure that you're eating a healthy diet and you're getting enough exercise and activity. So we always recommend talk to your doctor or a nutritionist about, what is best for you. But I actually want to add in not just nutritionist, also and or a registered dietitian. Just be aware Make sure you check people's credentials. There are a lot of people online who could say that they are a nutritionist. There's no certification program that qualifies them or not, but a registered dietitian does have to go through um, clinicals and has an actual certificate, so just something to consider. I do know nutritionists, though, who are very intelligent and up on their game on nutrition. Just have to make sure you're getting in front of the right person. I say, it says right here, it's recommended that anyone with fatty liver disease avoid alcohol, but really anyone with any kind of liver disease at all should avoid alcohol because alcohol is a known toxin to the liver. And so if you have a healthy liver, you can only process so much. It has to be able to metabolize everything and break it down. But if you have an injured liver or if it's slightly diseased, it can't perform the functions that it's supposed to as accurately as it would before. So add an alcohol in the mix, not making your liver happy during happy hour. So you might recognize this image, the old food pyramid. I remember seeing several boxes of cereal when I was a kid with this on it. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I actually want you to forget this. This is the old suggested way that we should eat, but they have moved forward and come out with the new eating guide of My Plate. So I definitely recommend logging onto um, choosemyplate.gov. They have a ton of resources if you're ever curious about food, nutrition, because everyone has different diets. Everyone eats differently. I mean, we've got so many things to consider. We've got allergens, um, different religions, different cultures eat certain things. We've got different tastes and different preferences. Some people are vegetarian or vegan. And then there's also the budgeting and cost factor because some of those non-GMO organic foods can get really expensive. So this website has great resources for anyone, but the plate itself is just supposed to give you a mental image of how you should break up the different food groups and what quantities those should be on your plate. It's not perfect, but it's a good place to start. I mean, like I said, everyone's got different things going on, so you have to edit your own food for your own situation. Now, these are my favorite sides because they actually, we get so many questions from people when it comes to fatty liver disease. Everyone's like, well, what should I eat for this kind of diet? Or, hey, I was diagnosed with NASH. My doctor told me I had non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. I don't want this to progress. I want to try to reverse, some of the damage that's been done. Like, what should I eat? And so I'm so happy to go over these with people because you can't just tell people to eat healthy. I mean, what does healthy mean to each individual person? So I'd rather be able to give you actual examples so you can make better choices for yourself. These will probably sound familiar. So eat more whole grain pasta, brown rice, and whole grain bread in comparison to white rice, corn, potatoes, white bread, regular pasta. Those foods usually have been refined, and so a lot of the vitamins and minerals have been taken out of them, just as well as the fiber. So choosing the whole grains would have the complex carbohydrates that you need and wouldn't cause a sugar crash. Choose less sugary drinks, such as sports drinks and sodas, and choose water instead, or if you have to have something with sugar, just try reduced versions. Obviously, stay away from junk food, fast food, and fatty food. I mean, but it's all moderation, right? Because we're human, we're not robots. We want to be able to enjoy our food, and every now and then, you cannot separate me from chocolate. I would probably fight you for it. So, no one's expecting you to follow these every single day, but these are just good examples to follow in order to live a healthier lifestyle. Um, I do know that fruits are a good thing to reach for when you're craving anything sweet, and you might not think that it would actually help with your craving, but after you're done eating it, you'll see, it was just the thing you wanted or needed instead of reaching for chocolate like me or something sugary. Um, Choose less saturated fats like butter and lard, and instead try cooking with unsaturated fats such as olive oil, vegetable oil, canola oil, and soybean oil. Saturated fats are most often found in animal products, so beef, pork, and even dark meat chicken. Try to choose leaner animal products such as chicken breast or pork loin, because those have less saturated fat. So foods that contain more saturated fat are usually solid at room temperature, so you'd be able to tell before you were cooking with them. Overall, reducing your saturated fat or even fat total will help reduce total calorie intake, and then will also be healthier on your heart. There is a note here to avoid excessive vitamin and mineral supplements, and I'm so glad this has it on here because that is one area where we do find a lot of people, like we said earlier, you don't have to be overweight to have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It could be caused from certain medications or even excessive vitamin use. I mean, there are some vitamins that are toxic when taken in high quantities. So you just have to make sure that you're not going overboard. And keep in mind that although the FDA does regulate pharmaceutical products, anything that were prescribed by our physicians, they do not regulate any of those supplements. So do you really know what you're getting in the vitamins and minerals that you're taking over the counter? Just make sure to look into that and be your own advocate, Check up on the things that, they state are in the ingredients. And obviously it's better to get your food or your vitamins and minerals from food rather than taking supplements. But I mean, if a doctor suggests that you need a certain supplement, obviously follow that advice. So they definitely suggest eating more whole grains, so brown rice, quinoa, buckwheat, oatmeal, oat bran. They're just better choices for you than refined grains, like I said earlier. Refined grains usually have things removed from them, and then they'll call them enriched. You'll see that on a food package label. It's been enriched with this vitamin. Yeah, that's because you took it out to begin with. One good trick I learned from the medical director of Phoenix Children's Hospital was the concept of 5-3-2-1-0. I know they skipped the 4, but there's a reason for this. If you can't remember these different things I'm putting out here about food, just try to think of 5-3-2-1-0. So make sure you're getting 5 servings of vegetables and fruit per day. Eat at least 3 times a day. Got to make sure you get your first meal of the day and breakfast. Can't skip that one. It's important, especially for your brain. But want to be eating regularly all throughout the day. They recommend no more than 2 hours of screen time, which is really hard in today's day and age because most of us work on a computer, or if we're in school, we're sitting in front of a screen all day long. But they're meaning more along the lines of, in your free time for leisure activity, spend no more than 2 hours watching Netflix. I'm guilty of that. Or playing video games or being on your computer for more than 2 hours, because then you're sitting. It's a sedentary activity. So you're not getting any blood flow, you're not getting exercise. And then the 1 stands for at least get 1 hour of physical activity per day. I'm a nerd though. I like to mix it up, like to have fun and do different things. So it doesn't have to be boring or monotonous or routine every single day. As long as you're getting activity an hour a day, hey, that's all that counts. And then for 0 trans fats, which should be easy nowadays because they're not allowed in packaged foods, and it shows right on there. But 5-3-2-1-0. Moving on. So if you're like me and you cook from home, baking or grilling your foods is easy, but try to choose those kind of options if you're ever at a restaurant instead of something that's fried, because that's going to contain more saturated fat. Increase foods that are high in vitamin E. Vitamin E has actually been shown to be very beneficial to the liver. But again, in moderation. Don't go overboard and eat a ton of vitamin E every day. There's still limits around what we need. But nuts, seeds, and avocados are great with vitamin E. And then just eat lean meats if you are a meat eater. So poultry and fish, and just limit your red meat. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, then you're already acing that one. So all forms of exercise can be good for you, as long as you're not throwing your back out of whack or doing some kind of acrobatic moves that you don't have the skills for, like me every once in a while when I'm dancing around to my favorite music. But check with your doctor first about what types of exercise you can do and how many times a week they suggest. But like I said, you can mix it up. You can try walking, swimming, bicycling, running, hiking, or do group sports, play basketball, play volleyball. Every day could be different. It doesn't have to be the same thing every day. The key is exercise is going to increase our chances of living longer. It makes us feel better about ourselves, decreases any chance of becoming depressed. It helps us sleep better, helps us move around more easily, improves circulation, gets your heart pumping. But ultimately, it's going to come down to input versus output. So if you're not controlling your diet and you're consuming a bunch of calories per day, how are you burning those off? And if you're not burning them off, then you're either going to gain or you're going to maintain. So if your goal is to lose weight, which is right now the only way to help reduce fatty liver disease, then you definitely want to look into, well, how many calories am I eating per day? What am I eating? Am I eating nutrient-dense food or am I eating calorie-dense food? And then look at, what areas can I improve? Like, where can I add in some fun exercise? It could even be by parking farther away from the grocery store. I know we're all like in a rush, last minute, want to get in and out, but if you actually parked farther away, just one little extra thing you're doing to benefit your health at the end of the day. And it all adds up. Like if you take the stairs instead of using the elevator or going on a walk at lunch, it's good to get out of the office. I'll be the first to admit I'm terrible. When my Fitbit goes off, I'm like, oh my God, I think it just went off like 5 times and I've been sitting here nonstop working on emails. I have to remind myself too. So moderation is the key for diet and nutrition. And then with exercising, keep it fun. Make sure it's something you want to do. You'll be more likely to stick to it. But those are the best 2 ways that you can arm yourself against fatty liver disease, as far as either helping to prevent, or if you already have it, trying to reverse anything before it's gotten too bad. I do have some resources here for you guys, and I'll leave these up for a few minutes. You can always go to our website. We have so much great information. We have a ton of resources. We have brochures on fatty liver disease that you can download. We have them on all kinds of liver disease. We have got great companies we partner with, like NeedyMeds, who they have prescription drug discount cards we often give to many of our liver disease patients to help offset the cost of medication. We have all kinds of webinars and different local events in your area, so definitely check us out, liverfoundation.org. Find one of our offices that's close by where you live, and you can sign up for our newsletter so you can keep in the loop of whenever we have anything coming around your area. With that, Carla, if you wanted to open it up for questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kara, for that very thorough and informative presentation. And hopefully now you can see my screen. Is that right? And you're looking at a slide of NeedyMeds cost savings resources. Can you see that, Kara?
Yes.
Great. So before I go into what we're looking on the screen, and I'm bringing that up because Kara had just referred to NeedyMeds drug discount card and how we can help you offset the cost of your medications, I want to again not only thank Kara for taking the time to share her expertise, but to really stress to our audience that NeedyMeds is working really hard to strengthen our relationship with the American Liver Foundation. Please check back our upcoming webinars because we are going to demand that Kara come back for another expertise presentation. And as Kara said, I would also recommend checking out the American Liver Foundation website. They are a fantastic resource and chock full of educational tidbits on how to keep yourself and your family healthy. If you are interested, of course, as I had said, in hanging on to the information that Kara presented and being able to refer back to it, you should be able to access the PowerPoint presentations in that handout section of your GoToWebinar control panel. But I do see some people had difficulty accessing it, so don't worry, just shoot me a message in that question section of your GoToWebinar control panel, and I will email you a copy of the presentations by tomorrow morning at the latest. With that, and I do see questions coming in, and a reminder to everybody that we keep the questions section portion of our webinars pretty brief, so we won't get the chance to answer everybody's questions, but don't despair if you've joined us and we don't get a chance to get to your specific question, because as I said, we will follow up with you by tomorrow morning. So as the questions are coming in, I'm going to take a moment to just remind everybody that NeedyMeds is here to help you if you're having any trouble affording your medications or other healthcare expenses. I'm not going to take the time to go through the cost savings resources you're looking at on your screen now. I just want to point out that we do have a robust website that's chock full of more than 20,000 points of cost savings. So please do check out the NeedyMeds website and or give our expert call center counselors a call, 1-800-503-6897. And of course, I will put our contact information up at the end of the webinar. We're here Monday through Friday Eastern Time, 9 to 5. So you can give us a call letting us know if there is a medication or other healthcare expense you're having difficulty affording, or if you're simply looking for reputable information on a diagnosis. I mentioned in the beginning of the webinar that on the bottom right hand of our homepage, you will see our calendar of events, and that's where you can see all of our other upcoming webinars. Here's a few coming up through the end of this month. If you want to learn more about NeedyMeds, please join us for the overview coming up on the 13th. I try to give those once a month. And as promised, I'm going to go ahead and put up the contact information for the American Liver Foundation, and at the bottom, that's the website and toll-free helpline for NeedyMeds as well. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that up, and with that, I'm going to ask Kara some of the questions that are coming in. One of the first ones is how can I figure out my BMI?
And that's a great question. I should have put up a screen for this because it would probably be best understood visually. So it's a formula. It's your weight in pounds divided by your height in inches squared. So it's a lot of numbers, sorry. And then multiplied by 703. So let's just give an example. Let's say someone weighs 150 pounds and they're 5'5", so there's 65 inches total. You take their height and you square it. And so you would take 150 divided by that number and then multiply it times 703. And that would come up with a BMI of 24.96, which I believe is just under the qualifying range for healthy.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that, and the example helps me, so I appreciate your doing that. Another question we have coming in, this is a great one. If you wouldn't mind, Kara, just repeating what the 53210 stood for.
Yes, and thank you for running me that. So 5 is make sure you're getting 5 servings per day of vegetables and fruits. And I say veggies first because you want more of those. Fruits they have natural sugar, but there's still sugar in there, and so many people who have diabetes would have to watch out for that and make sure you get that approved by your dietitian. But in general speaking, 5 servings of vegetables and fruits per day. The 3 is for making sure you're at least eating 3 meals per day. You don't want to skip meals. You don't want to throw your body into starvation mode. And the 2 is make sure to not exceed 2 hours of screen time per day. So if you are binge watching Jack Ryan on Amazon, like I just did over the weekend, then limit yourself to 2 hours. Or if you have kids and they're playing, what is that? Fortnite is the new game now, I think. Limit them to 2 hours. In the 80s, when I was a kid, we ran outside and played all the time. So make sure you're at least getting 1 hour of physical activity per day. And that could be yoga, could be Pilates, could be running, walking, jogging, hiking, swimming, all kinds of fun stuff. So the 1 is for 1 hour of exercise. And 0 is absolutely hands down 0, none, nada, zip, zilch for trans fats. You do not want those in your diet. They are terrible for you. There's just no benefit to eating those whatsoever. Maybe you could argue that it makes things taste better, but I think that I could come up with a better argument. But yeah, so 53210.
Thank you. And thank you to our audience member for asking Kara to repeat and explain that. Another couple of questions, Kara. If I suspect that I have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, how do I check to find out? What's the first step?
We get a lot of questions about this, and this is one thing I definitely want people to understand. First, know your risk factors. So if you recognize some of the things I went over today, if you're like, ooh, I do have type 2 diabetes, and yeah, I'm, pushing the obese, BMI category, or maybe even just overweight, and you have high triglycerides, or you have high cholesterol, if you're on medications for those, any of those combinations, just be aware, and I would definitely ask your physician about it. And, be your own advocate. Physicians have so much to learn about the body before they even get to be a doctor. They definitely have way more knowledge than the everyday average person, but it would take lifetimes, as in plural, for someone to know everything there is about the body. So have to be easy on them in one way. A general provider is not going to specialize, so they don't have expertise, knowledge on the liver. So sometimes they might not be up to date on that stuff. There's nothing wrong with getting a second opinion or going to a different doctor if you don't feel like your doctor is giving you the kind of either care or attention or answers that you need. If you don't feel like they're knowledgeable in that stuff, there's nothing wrong with getting a new doctor. Usually you start off with, your primary doctor, and then they'll refer you out to either a gastroenterologist or a hepatologist, depending on, what you have going on. But just know there's always other options. But definitely be your own advocate. Know the risks. Be honest with yourself, because like I said, it's not a death sentence, so don't feel like shameful. Just look at the bright side. Okay, I want to turn this around and fix it and see what we can do to make sure I don't ever progress to, cirrhosis or something. And like I said earlier, they might test your blood for elevated liver enzymes, but not all cases of fatty liver are going to show elevated blood work. So it could always be just a matter, if you're making your provider aware, they have skill and knowledge in those departments and can help you find out, but that's the best place to start.
Thank you, Kara. And before I get into passing the final question on to Kara, two quick things I want to mention. NeedyMeds recently acquired from the National Council on Patient Information Education their educational website called BeMedWise. And that website that you can find on its own, or you can go there from the NeedyMeds homepage, is chock full of information. But I'm bringing it up now because, as Kara made an important point, which is to be your own advocate when you go to your doctor or healthcare provider. And BeMedWise has some checklists on what to ask your doctor about your health in general, what to ask at a regular visit, and even a downloadable packet or checklist on specifically what questions to ask about a new medication that is being prescribed. So if you have difficulty finding that, again, shoot me a message in the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel, or don't hesitate to reach out to our call center experts or me at carla@needymeds.com. The second resource I wanted to mention is also on our website. On the left-hand side of our website, you'll see a box that refers to NeedyMeds Health Storylines. Health Storylines is the NeedyMeds free app. It can be downloaded free of charge onto any smartphone, and it has already the preloaded NeedyMeds drug discount card, which is a great safety net in case you're having difficulty affording a medication. But the reason I'm bringing up this free app during this presentation is because it also offers a ton of tools to manage and track your health. It can act as a medication reminder. It can act as a journal. There's a way to track your symptoms, to track your mood, to track the food you're eating, to keep a journal. I think I mentioned that one already. But anyway, I think it's really germane to what Kara just said about being your own advocate. You can also download the information on that app and provide your treating physician with very detailed information on how you really have been doing. So again, check that out. That's on the NeedyMeds website. It's free of charge. And again, you can find that on the left-hand side of the NeedyMeds homepage. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have difficulty locating that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and ask Kara what I think is a great last question, which is, you mentioned some foods that should be eaten to reverse or prevent NAFLD. Where can I find resources for an NAFLD diet? And thanks to our audience for presenting us with such great questions.
Yes, exactly. Obviously, I said speak with your doctor or a dietitian or nutritionist if you have one. But if not, you can always go to choosemyplate.gov for more information on food and nutrition. They have a bunch of resources. They are, like I said, they're not perfect, but it's like a great place to start. And it's the one thing that dietitians all around the U.S. seem to agree on, especially in comparison to our old food pyramid guide. The myplate.gov website has all kinds of information, even if you're a vegetarian or if you are a vegan or if you have allergens. Like I have celiac disease and I'm lactose intolerant, so my diet is not fun for other people. But I mean, you could find great resources there that could give you examples of different kinds of foods to eat. If you just think in general, I had one of our doctors on our medical advisory committee made me laugh, and he said, pretty much anything that's advertised as far as food, just stay away from that. He was talking about NAFLD. And if you think about it, it's kind of true. I mean, they have to market to you to entice you to buy their food. So choose more fresh foods like produce, fruits and veggies that are grown from the ground. Choose lean meats. Stay away from packaged foods. Try to choose foods that have little or no saturated fat, or high fructose corn syrup is another one, or even if they just have a lot of sugar in general. I mean, those are always almost like a no-brainer. Once you start eating healthier and you make those changes and choices every day, you'll feel a difference within yourself. I love that commercial where they show the girl making the different choices. Like she chooses an apple instead of a bagel, and then you see her taking the stairs instead of an elevator. And then it all adds up over time, though. Those little things that you make, those conscious decisions every day, it adds up after a week or a month, and then you start noticing, oh, wow, I'm like a lot healthier than I used to be all around. And that's what we're trying to get everybody to. No one expects anyone to be perfect. You can't eat perfectly all the time. We're not robots. We have, emotions and, things that we like to enjoy, just everything in moderation.
Kara, thank you so much for providing that information. And again, thank you to our audience for being so participatory in today's webinar and providing us with those great questions. We do hope that, again, you consider NeedyMeds a resource that'll help you better take care of yourself and your family. Please, again, turn to the American Liver Foundation for more information on staying healthy. And with that, thank you, Kara, for taking time to share your expertise with the NeedyMeds audience. And
Thank
to
you
our
for having
audience,
me.
Great. And to our audience, thanks so much. Let us know if you have any questions. We hope to see your names pop up in future webinars. Have a healthy rest of the day. Take care.
Bye, everyone.